Welcome to Global Village. We are airing today from JBS Canada Center in Brooks, and we thank City of Brooks for giving us the opportunity to air from JBS Canada Center for the common good of the community. We are also very honored to have Robert. He's from the RCMP officer in detachment in Brooks, and also Mr. Argaw from the BCIS, and Mr. Levi Fernell, who is our co-host of the program. Here you go, Mr. Levi.
Thank you very much for having me on, Ahmed, and thank you for joining us, guys.
Thank you for having us.
So, Robert, I'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as we know, my name is Rob. Last name is Harms. I'm a corporal in the RCMP. I've been in the RCMP for about 8.5 years. Okay, and like so many other officers, I actually had a life prior to the RCMP, and that included I worked with ambulance services for about 7 years, and I was actually working in the oil patch quite a bit. So that's kind of what I was doing before I joined the RCMP. I'm married. I have 4 girls, 3 of which are pretty much grown up now. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I just got posted to Brooks here about 2.5 months ago. And I'm in kind of a general duties position is what it's called, which is kind of general patrol, the frontline policing that most people see day-to-day sort of thing.
Yeah, and your title, Corporal?
That's right.
Yeah, can you tell me what that is exactly? Yeah.
Well, what the corporal rank is in Brooks here is kind of a frontline supervisor. So there's 4 operational corporals that look after the frontline police officers. I'm one of those 4. And so I look after a small unit of officers that are out doing the day-to-day stuff. And we all work together for the most part. We're kind of like one unit. We're out there doing our thing. When it's time for days off, we're usually all on days off, and then we'll come back on shift together and so on. So we kind of function as a unit.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then you said you were here for 2 months just in Brooks in the County of Newell?
That's right, yeah. So I've been here for about 2.5 months. Prior to that, I actually came from the Stettler Detachment, which is not too far north of here, I think about 2.5 hours north. And I was there for about 2 years. And then prior to that, I was at the Three Hills Detachment, and I was actually there for 6 years. So doing very similar work, all in general duties policing, that frontline policing sort of thing. So yeah, so here we are in Brooks now.
So it was just that you were a good asset to us, or did you choose to come to Brooks?
Well, funny enough, coming from Stettler to Brooks was actually a promotion for me. And when that was kind of unfolding, I looked at Brooks. I didn't have to come to Brooks. I may have had some other options and things, but Brooks needed a corporal, and I looked closely at Brooks, and I'd actually never been to Brooks before. So what I did is I packed up the family, and we actually came down here 2 or 3 times, and right away I realized that this is a community that I want to go to, and so I put my name in for the job posting, we call it, and they awarded the position to me, and I was more than happy to come down here, and we moved into the community right away. So,
wow! Welcome to Brooks. And
yeah,
well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, thanks. Okay, Mr. Argaw, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? I'm sure you're not born in Calgary or
No.
Brooks. Okay. Just checking.
Let me start.
Okay.
My name is Argaw. I work at the Brooks End County Immigration Service. I'm a settlement counselor there. Originally, I'm from Ethiopia. I was born and grew up in Ethiopia. In 2011, I came to Canada, and my first destination was Winnipeg, and I lived there for about a year and a half. And my family and I have decided to move to Alberta. Due to the opportunities available in Alberta. It was in 2013. Then we came to Alberta, and then we have decided to choose Brooks, our city that we call like Brooks now our home city for the last 4 years now.
Yeah, but coming from Ethiopia, which is a very warm area, coming to a Winnipeg, which is cold, and coming to Brooks, cold, was there any changing your way of dressing or way of adapting the new
Yeah, I think the most challenging part when for me or other newcomers is the weather.
Yeah.
And as you know, Winnipeg, it's called sometimes winter pig.
Yeah.
So, and it was the time I came in around October, and I haven't seen summertime here. So,
Yeah, fall.
and then the fall time, almost like after a week, the snow started, and then things have changed very fast,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of snow. So for me, well, I accepted the challenge because I came here to live permanently, so I had to accept it. But it was really the biggest challenge, apart from other challenges.
What were some things you did to prepare for the winter?
Well, for the winter, well, I'm so fortunate because my wife, she has been here before I came here, so she was prepared like for everything, jackets and
Wow.
all the things that I need for the winter.
Wow, you're
Yeah.
lucky then.
Yeah, I can say I'm so lucky.
So she was ahead of you. She came to Canada.
Oh yeah,
prior
just
to you.
long time, like 15, 16 years ago. Like so.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. And she was living at that time in Winnipeg then.
In Winnipeg, yeah.
So both of you moved to Brooks.
Yeah, we moved to Brooks, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And actually I have 3 children now.
Good.
Yeah.
They were all born in.
In Canada, all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Winnipeg and Brooks.
Yeah, 1 in Winnipeg and 2 in Brooks.
There you go. Well,
And they'll have a couple of teachers to teach them about the cold weather, huh? They'll do
Oh.
just fine.
Yeah, you know, they were born here, so it'll be fine. Even we are adapting too, so
Yeah.
they'll be
For
fine
sure.
because they see the weather like since they were born.
Yes, yeah.
yeah, trust me, when you take them to Ethiopia, they will be strangers to adapt the warm weather. So it's a vice versa. They will be difficult to adapt to the social in Ethiopia and culture-wise and weather-wise in Ethiopia. It will be difficult for them to adapt. So that
Yes.
is something that you add that one to your.
Exactly. I mean, that's you are right. It's gonna be very different for them. Here we speak sometimes our language, like mostly, but
Yeah.
we mix it with English. So we speak our language, and we have our own somehow tradition culture that we apply at home, but it's not as the same as that we see back home. So
The common food is anjera anyway.
yeah, injera is the
Injera,
flatbread.
yeah.
It's common food
Yeah.
in Ethiopia.
Yeah, it's got little dots in it, like.
Yes, you are right.
Yes, I did go to an Ethiopian restaurant and I had some of it. It was very good.
Oh, really? Did you
yeah,
like it?
Spicy too. Yeah, I had some meat on there. It was delicious.
Yeah, it becomes very common, like in the US now, even in the Hollywood, they said.
Yeah. yeah.
So Rob, you're an RCMP officer. Can you tell me, like, what's RCMP stand for, and a little bit about how they were formed?
Sure. Well, the RCMP, what that actually stands for is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And I can give you a little bit of a kind of a quick synopsis on the history. The RCMP was actually formed back in 1873. And back then it was formed by the Canadian government, and it was actually Sir John A. Macdonald that was in power then. And he was basically the one that brought the RCMP into power. Now back then it was actually referred to as the Northwest Mounted Police. And once kind of the initiative started going forward, there was 150, they called them cadets, 150 cadets that were recruited. And they didn't have to meet much criteria to be recruited. Basically, they had to be able to read and write and speak English or French. But most of all, they had to be a good horseman, because these were mounted patrol officers. And so, yeah, there was 125 of them that were recruited. That was in 1873. And the main purpose of forming the force at that time was there were some issues with what they called illegal whiskey traders. And there were some tensions brewing between government and some of the local natives, particularly in the western part of Canada. So that's kind of why the Northwest Mounted Police was formed at that time. Now, a year later, that small force almost doubled. I think it was up to about 275 members. And they proceeded west on horseback, and that's what's often referred to as the Great March West. And funny enough, their destination was southern Alberta, not too far from here. because it was there that there was a lot of illegal whiskey trading going on. I think mostly with the Americans and with some of the local native people at that time. So that was kind of their focus. That's what they came over here to do. And when they got to Alberta, they actually landed in Fort Macleod, and that's where they set up their first post, or as we know it as a detachment today. So that's where they kind of started. And they kind of grew and got bigger and bigger. And from there, I think half of the officers stayed there. The other half kind of fanned out across Alberta and a little bit into Saskatchewan. And they moved into places like Edmonton and Calgary, and they established more detachments and started to do their thing. And the force started to progress from there. So that's kind of how it got going. And as years went by, they progressed more and more. They got bigger and bigger. They took on actual policing duties with different provinces and so on. And several years later, don't quote me on this, I believe it was 1920, the Northwest Mounted Police were actually renamed the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And that was after they absorbed some different police forces and so on. And again, just continued to grow and evolve into the force that it is today.
Wow.
And today there's just about 30,000 members Canada-wide in the RCMP, and there's about 150 different specialized units within the RCMP that we're all part of. So, and Brooks is no exception there. We have several officers here at the Brooks Detachment, and we're part of that. So.
Now, does every town, like in city, do they have RCMP detachment? Is it every community has one, or is it what is the line? I guess you draw as a population line.
Well, the RCMP is Canada's only federal police service. Okay, and the RCMP for the most part is really fanned out from border to border. What's happened here in the past is a lot of provinces have signed a contract with the RCMP to provide policing to that province, and we'll use Alberta for an example. So Alberta is one of those provinces. We're contracted to provide policing to that province. Now there's different arrangements with different communities, okay? Some of the smaller communities, they have RCMP members there because basically those members are provided by the province, okay? As the communities get bigger, and we'll use maybe Brooks for an example, the RCMP is still policing Brooks, okay? Now there's an agreement, and I don't know all the fine detail of it, but probably the city of Brooks is paying for some of that policing and the government is paying for some of that. So it's kind of a joint thing. But as communities get bigger and bigger, there's kind of different arrangements on who pays for what. And really the bigger the community is, that community is maybe left to pay for the policing entirely on their own. So that's why you'll see some cities, and there is some cities and some smaller communities that are using different police services, mainly their own, okay? We use like Calgary City Police, for example, Edmonton City Police. They have their own police force, and that's part of their city, and that's what they've done. And I've had many people ask me, well, why is that? Like, why wouldn't they go with the RCMP? And the best thing I can come up with is because what they've done is the best fit for them. Yeah. They've made a decision some time ago that they want their own police force, and there's probably pros and cons to that, but obviously that was the best fit for them, and they're doing that. That's their police force, and they're policing themselves, sort of thing. So, yeah, so that's kind of how it works. So,
Mr. Argaw, back home where we come from, I believe when you see police, you run. That's a common, because it's a very tough situation. It's corrupted. They will ask you to stop, and they ask you money.
Yes.
Not all of them, but most of the
common in developing countries.
Common of many of development nations.
Exactly.
So having that mindset coming here, there is that mistrust is still with the police coming from that background. In your own opinion, how you think we can solve that issue in terms of for the common good of the public?
Yeah, it does. Mostly, especially Brooks, we have a unique situation.
Yeah.
Especially most immigrant newcomers that we get here are refugees. Refugees are they are passing through different difficulties. When they cross the border, they will be abused by the local people, even the government. Even though they signed the a human rights proclamation, like UN
Yeah.
human rights proclamation, they still,
Yeah.
the police of those countries who were supposed to protect the refugees,
They
they abuse them.
Yeah.
And not only that, even those people who were refugees when they were living in their home country, they are still abused by the government,
Yeah.
bodies like the
Yeah.
police and security force. So when you come here, it's different. The role of the police is like to protect the citizens, but no one believes this. Like, I lived in a big city. I have some education at least. I understand what's happening in the Western world, like how the police treats the people and protects the society. For me, it was, I had a little bit of information, but for those people don't have. And when they are stopped by the police, they don't know what they are doing. They might get ready to fight with the police or to escape or something. And sometimes, we have, everybody, like newcomers come from different culture. The way that we communicate differ. When we use gestures, it's, we may like, when we say like this, we are trying to let other people understand what has happened, but it might not be common here in Canada. So those things, it's not like the newcomers, they are not being aggressive, It's the way that how they communicate. So it's good to have, especially, like I think we have a good relationship with the police, where we have been working for a long time here, and the police, they come to our office, BCIS, to do to teach the newcomers about the law in Canada, and then have that information for newcomers. But at the same time, it's very important, I think, for the police service to provide cultural competency trainings.
Like the one you had?
The one that we had, yeah. Cultural competence, it's very important. It's how to communicate with people from different cultures. It's not something, a crime, like, I don't know how to say it, not to know something, but it's good to be willing to know, to get the information from the source that we have to get. So it's very important.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes it's just custom things, right? Like if you burp in certain countries, then that's a compliment. You burp in other countries, it's an insult. So it would be very difficult, and like you say, it's not a law or a rule or anything.
Yeah.
It's just kind of common knowledge amongst a population.
That's true.
And that would be very difficult to understand when you come into a new population.
No, exactly. If you are stopped by a police, like if you are driving a car and stopped by a police, you bribe the police officer in most developing countries. Like I can take example like my own country. So they might, they might think that would work in Canada as well. They might try to give, if they don't have information. That's what we do, like at BCIS. That's why we have these information and orientation sessions. We teach newcomers, about the basic stuff that they should know. These things seem simple for people who lived here for a long time or who are born here, but the people, they don't know. They don't know about these things. That's what we are working with different service organizations, the police and the city of Brooks and other stakeholders, to settle and integrate newcomers into the communities they come to live in.
I think we are going to provide a same cultural capacity building like that the one you attended.
Yes.
We had one RCMP who attended that time, Neil, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
And we're going to be doing again.
Yeah.
And we're going to be offering also again to the RCMP to attend and know. Because one of the things that he mentioned, Argaw, actually is if you've been stopped by a police back in Africa or developed nations, the police officer will sit in the car. The driver will come out from the car and then come to the police officer. Here is a vice versa.
Yeah.
You cannot leave your car because
That's
if you step out of the car, there's a danger that the police officer will shoot you.
The police officer would stay in the car.
So it's a different mindset. Over there, they will stop you. You come out from the car. You come and walk maybe 5 minutes away. And you walk to the police office. So
and here in Canada, police officers actually take that as a threat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Because the standard is the police officers to approach the vehicle.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. That's
So
right.
yeah, I've done you know, a handful of traffic stops and talking to people in the community when I'm working. And for the most part, I've had very pleasant experiences with everybody in Brooks, including some of the new Canadians and so on. But definitely you can see at times there's some people that have maybe a certain amount of fear or hesitation. And I think that's what it is. It's that unknown. And it's good for us to know that too, because I was actually educated on that when I came here. And I know that. So I know why this person is maybe not acting, you know, like other people might act when I'm talking to them. So yeah, the secret is knowledge, right?
That's true.
Yeah, not only on the new Canadian side, but on everybody's side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess like just even simple questions, like you say, there's misunderstandings. Like, so can you drive with a learner's permit, and can you drive with no insurance?
Well, yeah, and we should clarify things like that because at times that is a bit of an issue. The answer is yes, you can drive with a learner's permit, but there's a condition where you have to have a person with you that's classified as a proper supervisor. What that means, a proper supervisor, is someone that holds a valid driver's license that's a non-probationary license. Okay, so the answer is yes, you can drive with that learner's permit, which is a class 7. Okay, but you have to have an approved supervisor with you. Okay, and we do encounter people that have a class 7 driver's license and they drive by themselves and they don't have anyone with them supervising. Okay?
That's a violation.
That's a violation. Under provincial law, that's a violation. It's a $355 ticket if you were to receive a ticket for that.
Wow.
Okay, but there's more consequences than the ticket. Okay, and that's actually why we intervene. Is that person is only holding a class 7 license. Okay, it means that person hasn't demonstrated that they're qualified yet to be a fully classed driver. Okay, so they still have to prove that, and how they prove that is they follow the guidelines of the class 7 license, which means they have a supervisor that teaches them how to drive. When they hit the age of 16, and providing they've had that class 7 license for at least a year, they can try and get their class 5 license. Okay, but that involves things like a road test. Okay, and that's what I mean by they have to be able to demonstrate that they have the skills before they're allowed to do that. And if they haven't done that, we're most certainly going to intervene when we can, because that person could be a hazard on the road, and most likely is.
But if you get a ticket of $357 for class 7, would that individual lose also demerit point, or for
there's also the demerit points there. So now the Alberta driver's license system has a probationary period on it. So not only would that class 7 driver only have a learner's permit, but would be on basically a probation period. Now that one of the components of that probation is that he's only allowed to gain half the demerits that a regular driver is. So once he reaches, I believe it's 8 demerits, that license is suspended. There's very little tolerance there for continued violations, and that's part of the learning process, right? Because obviously something's wrong there. So yeah, to answer your question, there's demerits with each ticket, different demerits depending on the ticket, but if you reach a certain point, that person's going to lose their driver's license.
Wow. So
Yeah, that's one of those.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Argaw.
I think as a community we have an assignment because most people, I know that it's illegal. It's, as Rob said, like there are a large number of people who are driving by a class 7 driver's license. So we should ask why these people are driving. I mean, some of them might have information that they can drive without a supervisor, but because of this transportation problem in our city, so all of us, I think, should take this assignment. That's why people are, because you can't ask someone to give you a ride all the time, and then if you don't have a ride, or winter time, look at this weather, winter time, if you don't have a ride or taxi, you can't use taxi 10 times a day. You're gonna lose all your money in the bank. So I think
but we also have to encourage them, because now what you said, it's a little bit. If the individual drives class 7, not only endangering the public safety, but also the insurance will not cover if they overrun someone. So the individual doesn't have somebody to come with, welcome to Canada, ride with somebody, or walk through the winter. That's all to it. Because the danger that you overrun someone with class 7 is far more weight
That's
than you
true.
end up in court.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's true.
that is
Yeah.
the thing, right? It's not just a money thing, although it will cost you a lot of money if
Yeah.
you do get pulled over. But yeah, it
Yeah.
would be a safety concern as well.
The ultimate consequence
Yeah.
is not the fines.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you could potentially lose your vehicle as well, could be seized.
Yeah.
But the ultimate consequence is somebody gets hurt.
Yeah.
And that
People's
is
life,
what
yeah.
all of this is about. So,
That's true.
yeah.
Just to let you know, there was a circumstance last year. I went to Costa Rica and I landed, hopped in a vehicle, and I was driving. And I don't speak Spanish. The rules of the road, it may be unspoken ones. They drove 20 kilometers over the speed limit. It was a very different and difficult situation to be in. And so I can understand the confusion and stuff that someone faces. And I think it's important to if you can educate yourself. So that you have a better understanding. I know in that situation there were some times on these windy jungle roads that I wish that maybe I would have better educated myself before I got
Sure.
behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to, as a community, I think we have to do everything humanly possible when it comes to the public safety and help the RCMP or any other law officers to the maximum that the community can in order to live for safety ourselves. Because we're running away from problems back home. You come here, you have to participate. That's safe. Otherwise, it becomes the same back home. The only way that stops is because of the law. So we have to also have moral responsibility to engage with law officers and also to educate our people in terms of if you see something, even if that's your brother dealing some funny things, you have responsibility called RCMP. If something does something wrong, we have responsibility to engage the local. We are not be able to do that back home business because it creates a problem that somebody will end up in prison. So we'll try to educate them as much as we can and give the support that the law officers and law enforcement requires because they are there, risking their own life for the common safety of the public. So we have to look from that perspective and educate our people. That is my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Mr. Robert and Argaw, for coming to Global Village today. We are very honored to have both of you,
Thank you.
and it's a pleasure. I think thanks, Robert.
Again, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Argaw. And we hope to have also Chris as well when he has time.
Certainly.
Yeah, and others. And I understand that there will be also a new officer from Congo. I think that he said.
Okay,
he will be
yes, that's
coming
right, yeah.
soon, yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to expose also those officers from diversity population, so they will be able to
Absolutely.
feel that connection if they have some feeling. So they can call. I don't speak French. They can call the French-speaking person, or they can call Arabic-speaking Abdelhamid.
Yeah.
Abdelhamid speaks Arabic. So it's a very good variety of a diverse population in the RCMP.
Yeah, most certainly.
And you guys are doing a great job. That's all I know.
Yes, thank you.
This is the end of Global Village for today. Thank you very much for watching. And we hope you to join us next time. This is Global Village, where the East meets the West. Ahmed Kasim, your host of the program. And we thank City of Brooks providing for the space. And also here is my co-host, Mr. Levi Fernell.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Thank you guys for coming on, and thanks for watching.
God bless you all.